Welcome to this breaking news exclusive interview episode of North Carolina Tweener Talks. Drew, congratulations. I've always wanted to have you on the pod and couldn't think of a better time than on the day of your big announcement. So I don't want to be the one to deliver the news. So let's jump right in. What are you guys announcing today?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Really excited to be here. So today we are announcing that Validic has been acquired by ChartSpan, which is a leading care management services company in our sector. And, we partnered with them throughout the years in various ways, but really this is an opportunity to bring both companies closer to our shared mission of improving the health of Americans at a lower cost.
Cool. We're going to do this Christopher Nolan style. So that's the current day. Now let's go back in time. So wavy lines. So tell us, I know we entered the story. We were on the cap table in Q4 of 22. But you were already at a pretty good size by the time we had started our fund and you were fundraising and the moon and star aligned there. Tell us the thumbnail founding story of Validic and then what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder, Ryan Becklin, and I started working on some different concepts in health in the 2011 timeframe. And we went through a startup accelerator down in Dallas, actually called Tech Wildcatters. And from there, we recognized a need to add personal health data from all these like emerging digital health apps. This was back in 2012. We thought, hey, there's something here. And so for our own purposes, we started to actually add, devices like Fitbit and Jawbone and Nike Fuel Band and MapMyFitness, if you remember those things at the time, into our own platform. And we started taking an early version of that out to market in early 2013. And, what we kept hearing was, hey, everybody's kind of doing something similar to this, but nobody has all the data. Like, what if you guys just licensed the data access to this, sort of like Twilio for health data, and then everybody could now have it. And so we kept hearing that enough that we thought maybe there's something here. So we launched Validic in mid 2013 with the idea of one API for all of your personal health data connectivity. We really helped create that category of sort of health IoT for personal health data. And, we've now built the largest health IoT platform in the world. We connect with over 700 disparate sources. We've had over 20 million people have data go through our platform since we launched, and, we're continuing to grow and all that. So it's been really exciting to see where the industry has taken us.
Let's tie it to the real world. So let's say I have a, not something as simple as an Apple Watch, but like an insulin pump or a heart monitor or something like that. Where do you guys, so from a patient back perspective, where does Validic come into play?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be a variety of things. So say you are at your doctor's office and you might have diabetes or hypertension or chronic kidney disease. They might prescribe you a device or a set of devices to help monitor your condition while you're in the home to ensure that things are progressing well, and they can help titrate your medication remotely. They can bring you back in early if there's anything concerning, and you can always reach out to them, and they already know what's going on with your health because they see it in the health record. That's the type of care that we enable with our clients. And we also, so that's more for the chronic and acute care. We also work with health plans and large self-insured employers where you might have a wearable device or something like that, and they're just trying to encourage you to track healthy activities like AARP, for example. We have several 100,000 AARP members who connect data through their Apple Watches and Fitbits, the AARP app, and actually goes through our system, helping seniors live longer, healthier lives, because there's a big correlation between physical activity, longevity, and brain health.
Yeah, very cool. And then you guys you're a scrappy founder, so you've been very good at fundraising in a category. I know healthcare goes in and out of fashion, kind of like bell-bottom jeans or something.
Boy, does it ever, man.
or hair, different haircuts. But you've successfully navigated through all that. Walk us through kind of a big picture of the fundraising rounds you've done that got you here?
Yeah, so when we launched to the market in mid 2013, we actually did so with a seed round that was led by Mark Cuban, which is very cool. We did not have to go on Shark Tank. And then about a year later, in June of 2014, we did our Series A. That was led by local fund SJF Partners and or SJF Ventures and Graycroft Partners out of New York. And then about 9 months later, in early 2015, we actually did our Series B round, which was led by Kaiser Permanente. So we came out really hot and really fast. But to your point, right after that B round, health tech took a dip, and it was all of a sudden we went through a several year period where health tech companies couldn't get funding. A lot of our early clients were venture backed companies, so we had actually a lot of churn amongst those smaller companies that were looking to get their platforms started. And we actually kind of had to retrench and pivot ourselves a little bit at the time, because we were just, really just basically writing order forms as our sales process. It was very simple. And then all of a sudden things got a little tricky. So we pivoted and went up market, and we built a solution that would work with health systems and health plans to bring the data into their care management clinical workflow and their electronic health records, in order to build something that was more, healthcare recession proof, if you will. And so that pivot really, really helped solidify our business and help us keep growing. And then we actually, we had enough cash, and we managed things pretty well. And we didn't raise again until 2022, which is when the Tweener fund came in. And really that was, there's for another time there, I can tell you sort of the details of how we got to that raise, but that was a really good time for us to raise. And, the
22 was a banner year for fundraising.
Yeah, the market was great and all of that. Fast forward 12 more months, and it was a really brutal year. It was really brutal. But we hit the market well in 22 with that fundraise. And that really helped shore up our balance sheet and keep us going. We actually acquired a company right after that in May of 2023, which was a logistics and support company. And we acquired that out of Cox Communication. And that was just a really tremendous acquisition for us to expand our capabilities, add some services that helped grow our ARR and helped us better service our clients. So that was
you and I were chatting about that, and you're like, "You think I should do this?" I'd be like, "You're crazy not to do this."
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was a good deal. Yeah,
it was a good deal. Yeah.
Sometimes these little gifts drop in your lap. So I think the lesson there is, if I kind of boil it down to a founder lesson, you kind of had, I don't know if it was just luck or spidey sense or experience, but you kind of knew that there'd be some a cycle here, and you kind of got to raise when you can, right? And because you never know if there's going to be a COVID or whatever it is. I don't know if 2020 played an impact, if it was COVID or not that caused that, but you never know what the externalities are going to do. So,
right.
So if you load up your balance sheet enough, and maybe you take a little more dilution for that, but at least you survived to fight another day. The dilution you take doing that is always better than a down round or an emergency round on the other side of a crisis.
100%. I've never met a founder who said, "I wish I hadn't taken that round of capital." Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. So now let's go back to the news. So, okay, so you're being acquired. And the other thing is, I watch this show TBPN, and they have a sound button, overnight success. And they always do it jokingly, like, because you're an overnight success, boom.
Yeah, after 15 years of hard work.
Yeah. This is the thing that, what a lot of people are, we meet a lot of first time early stage founders, and I try to help them understand that this is, sure, there are these things like cursor or something that's up and to the right, and but that's the super minority. Most of it looks kind of like what you've done, like grinding it out, surviving another year, waiting for the good times, and then writing those up, and then kind of like staying alive and keep. It's a stair step, not a up and to the right. So now that you're at this point, well, first of all, what's going to happen to Drew? Are you going to join the company and be a part of the management team? How are you going to fit in with things in this new company?
Yeah. I am joining the company. I'll be in a strategic role. I'll be an officer of the company. I think the technical title is Chief Development Officer, but basically I'll be heading up corporate development and strategy. And I'm also going to be a board director, which is really exciting to be able to remain in a board role with the company.
Yeah, it's highly unusual too. So that they view this as strategic. There's this like a pretty clear signal there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was thrilled to be able to have that as an option.
Yeah, and then obviously to the extent you're comfortable sharing it, founders always kind of say how. The question I get is like, how do I sell my company? And I think it's better to kind of say, how did a lot of these M&As happen because there was one where Relias bought a company here locally, and they knew each other. There's some where they're already partners. They kind of like date before they get married. There's others that just come out of the blue because they've identified a need. Where did this come from? And then we can kind of talk about. I definitely want to understand the strategic value and like how you and the acquirer are viewing like the classic better sum of the parts kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've actually known ChartSpan for years. In fact, we're based in North Carolina. They were based in Greenville, South Carolina, and we started roughly the same time, kind of mid 20-teens. And so, we sort of grew up together in digital health in some ways, and so kept tabs on each other throughout.
You're ever at trade shows next to each other?
Not right next to each other, but definitely, there's, but we always had complementary capabilities and skill sets. And so, we started talking, maybe a couple of years ago now, just at a very high level about the idea of potentially combining and what that might look like. Mm-hmm. And as we were having some of those early conversations, we both recognized that, hey, we probably want to also just make sure that this is the right thing for our business and our shareholders. And so, they actually evaluated multiple companies in our space. We went out and we actually did engage a banker, and we talked with, multiple companies in our space as well. And at the end of the day, really both came to the conclusion that this was, the right thing to do, not just for our shareholders, which it absolutely was, but also for the combined mission. Like our mission has always been to improve the quality of health and human life by making the personal health data actionable. And they have, a team of 300 clinicians who every single day help people have better, healthier lives. As an outsourced partnership with their healthcare providers who are their clients. And so for me, like merging those two made so much sense, because now you can have all of the personal health data and also the clinicians who can help really track and follow that and help people, coach people to have the best possible health outcomes proactively, therefore lowering healthcare costs, which are, rising wildly out of control.
Yeah. So they have clinics. So they're like basically a clinic operator. Is that?
It's all virtual. So it's
all virtual. Okay.
Yeah. It's all virtual clinicians. That's right.
Okay. So they're virtual clinicians, and then you guys have the IoT, and I imagine there'll be a really tight integration there. Yep. Do they view that as a strategic differentiator versus other virtual clinics? Is that kind of like the thing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, it's a really strategic differentiator. We're very excited about it. We also are going to be sitting on a pretty unique data asset because we now not only will have all of the data that Validic creates, which is, just, billions of data points a year, but also all of the interactions that the nurses themselves take and the clinical decisions that they make, which I think creates a really exciting opportunity for some new products that we can look at building.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I know you're super busy and you're on your way to a trip. Any other founder little nuggets you want to drop on folks? You're always you're always a very thoughtful founder and always thinking about the business in different ways.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I'll say, listen, a couple things. One is, if somebody says that they're interested in buying your company, you should take a phone call. I mentioned that we acquired this other company back in 2023. There was another company in the space that I was considering also looking at potentially buying. And I talked to the founder and I said, hey, listen, this is an asset I think we're going to need to own, because we were partnering on some stuff. And, are you open to that conversation? He's like, no, we're not for sale. And I was like, okay. And then 3 months later, when the release came out that we had acquired this other company, he texted me really angry. And he's like, what is this? And I was like, I mean, I told you, dude. Like,
couldn't have been clear. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what you wanted from me. So I would say, definitely just at least take a call. You can always, you don't have to do anything.
I say no. I've always learned stuff from that inbound. Like it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is, listen, the journey might be longer than you expect, but it's worth it. Like, just keep sticking with it and keep following the mission and doing what you think is best for the business. And, I think eventually you'll get to where you want to go. It is definitely not always up and to the right. That is for sure.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know at the end of these processes, it's kind of exhaustion and excitement, like a tired adrenaline coffee fueled situation. So appreciate you coming on, and hopefully somewhere in here you'll take a little bit of a vacation. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for having us on the cap table. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.